Okay, so the last question of the Maimed, the question was that mitzvahs themselves are oiris bekelim, to make the question very simple. Taryag kelim, and each one is mamshich ha'oir. So if it's mamshich ha'oir, it means the oir is shaykh to the kelim. Here we're talking about the mamshich atzmus. Mekadshe shmecha, that mekadshe kedusha, the true kedusha, which means havdalah, removal is atzmus. Atzmus is body. So how do mitzvahs mamshich atzmus? And the answer is because the year does it. When the year does the mitzvah, so therefore is mamshich atzmus. It's not, we didn't get 100% clear because it sounds like that sounded yes and then no, that even the oir, for example, you said tefillin, that the first parsha of tefillin, Kaddish, is chochma datzilos, even that hamshacha needs the yid to put it on, for that hamshacha to happen. But it's not so clear because he says, clearly, a mitzvah tzadatzmam and hamshachas oiris bekelim bulvad. Aideshi so mekaymis a mitzvah, poilim ba mitzvah shal yodam yimshach gam b'chinas atzmus. So it's a little bit vague. Whether it's, one thing is clear that the chidush, the ikir, not more than the chidush, the whole objective, which is the Eibusha says, take me, so that's only when the yid is mekayim the mitzvah, not the mitzvah itself. We're kind of back to the ois. I don't know if you kept on look. We did finish the ois. We did. We finished the ois till ois dalid. That's the nukuda of the second paragraph of Ois Gimel. But then he added, this is an important point. Ois adds that even the kishur, the connection of Oiris and Kelim is through Yidden. So it is clear. But it needs to be explained this, but he said before, the fact that the Keli can be magbal the Oir, it means mucha shehem Oiris hashayachim leKelim. So we have to machalik. They're shaykh to the keli, but the fuse with the keli, that's only through a yid. So both shachas atzmus, the essence of Hashem, and the highest revelations only happen through when a yid does it. We should look at it inside Va'odzos. Let's look at, if you have the same format, Lamed Beis. Va'odzos, halfway down, 3 words in the end of the line. You have Va'odzos, 3 lines below the number 16, the outer 16. Even the kishur, really the bond of the oiris and the kelim, Yisrael dafkas through a yid. See, that seems to be the diuk. In the Chanami, it's an oil which is shaykh, but shaykh doesn't mean that you become one with. So that the oil should become one with the keli, that too is only when the yid is mekayim the mitzvah. They may have a connection, but they're still opposites. As we said, oil points upwards and keli downwards, as it were. To fuse them, they need something higher than both. That is affected through the yid. Only a yid, doesn't say why, but because the Neshama is mushash and atzmos, so therefore yid can affect this fusion. Because he draws on atzmos, therefore there can be the chibur, the fusion of Eiris and Kelim. So 2 things happen, it's really one thing. He draws on atzmos, and therefore what happens is the chibur of Eiris and Kelim, which I'm not going to address now, but needs to be understood a little bit. A fundamental question is, why do we need Eiris and Kelim? What do you need the whole Eiris and Kelim for? Mamshech atzmos. Come on. Yid's mekayim mitzvah, he's mamshech atzmos. What's the virtue of the fusion of Eiris and Kelim? Namely, Okay, the example that he brought, Chachma Datzilus is Nimshach and revealed in the film. Actually, I'll answer the question just very briefly. There's two levels to this answer. One is, in order to maintain, as it were, or for there to be tachten, there's got to be the whole gather of Eidos and Kalim. That's got to be respected throughout, because that's the kavanah. Is dir b'tachtonim. What makes a tachten is Eidos and Kalim. It's not atzmos. There's no elyon. There's no tachten. There's no division. Speak a little bit higher.
A reflection of what's the whole system, but on a micro level.
Meaning here,
the mitzvah, it's a reflection of what's.
So, but our question is, why do we need the system?
Right, that's the bigger question.
That's what I'm asking you. Why the system? Shachas atzmos, it's mekayim mitzvah connects to atzmos. Because the kavon of atzmos is dir b'tachtonim, and that needs a system. And a system of elyon and tachten, or eidos and kalim. That's the nikud of the answer, which is negated to us right now. There's another dimension why eidos and kalim, it's really all part of it, what's all added is because the kavana of kamshachas atzmos is also that it should be appreciated. Gilui, lichtike dire, as the Rebbe says in the Kutei Sichos, in the famous landmark, Sich and Chelik Daled. That an luminous dire, so it's really a fusion of, that's why you need the chibur of eidos and kalim. Kalim is the gvul, Eir is the gilui. Now that can't even happen without atzmus, because they're opposites. We just finished saying that even though the previous Oisi said that the mitzvah, the keli is mamshich, the fact that it's mamshich, it means it's a oy which is shaykh to the keli, that still won't affect the chibur. Let's make that clearer. Bli gvul and gvul have a shaykhs, because bli gvul is measured by gvul. There's still a shaykhs there, but it doesn't mean you can get infinite, the finite. Can't have a kisha. What's the shaykhs? The shaykhs is the negation, but it's a relationship. There's a communication, as it were. You're in the world, but bottled b'mitzias or irrelevant, but you're still there. In fact, the word bli gvul in English, infinite, inherently in there is not finite. There is again, that's not a kisha. As we're talking now, I'm answering my question clearer and clearer. That's not a chibur and a kisha. That's shaykh. Now our question was very nice. Atzmos we're looking for. Kedusha. Answer. The Yid does the mitzvah is mamshech atzmos. And not only that, here the kisha and the chibur of bli gvul and gvul happens. That can only happen b'koyach atzmos. Now I'm asking, why do we need gvul and bli gvul? Atzmos gamarnu. The answer is, that's all the nisava. The nisava is dir b'tachtonim. A tachten means an elin and a tacht and a keli and the oid and a chibur of the two of them. Needs much greater depth and thinking, but that's an outline. The ikir, in learning Chassidus, there's two things. You have to learn a lot, amassing knowledge. The Rebbe would encourage this a lot. To learn b'shufi, like legirse, like what kind of learning legirse. Another maimed. That's one thing. And then there has to be pasha the haravanya to understand this and in depth. Now you can't have an in-depth understanding if you don't have, sources and words and oisius and maimodim. So we need to learn a lot of maimodim, but then as much as possible, each one, as we finish a maimer, we can do it together. And I try to, in the shiurs, to give havana of hasog and understanding. But at the end of the day, it's my oisius, it's my understanding. I don't know how successful I am in conveying it. Each one has to heart of himself and find it in his own oisius. And we keep on saying, the measure is, can you explain it to the best of your ability to someone who has no idea? And what that means is, part of that means is that this is as much as I understand now. You have to know your own limit. Okay, you asked me a good question. I don't know the answer to that, but not fool myself. Just know I don't know that. I don't understand that. That has to be part of our understanding, to be honest and clear in our Havana. What do I do understand? What I don't understand. And what I don't understand, it's fine. The other night when I was talking about that sikha the Tzemach Tzedek and the Ushpizin of Aaron, unbelievable sikha there about Tzimtzum and Kipshut. They never should even speak about this publicly and everything else. So I was going to talk about it by the Farbrengen Shabbos. Never happened. The Farbrengen in the Sukkah Shabbos by Shabbos Day Cholamoid. The Meidik Oisius there, where the Rebbe says basically, yes, Kipshut or not Kipshut. Yes or no? Is there a tzimtzum? Not a tzimtzum. In other words, is the world real or not real? Tzimtzum kipshuta means that this is real. That's what tzimtzum kipshuta means. That's what they understood the ideas of the pashtus. And their biggest proof is, hello, there's a world. It's kipshuta. No, the Alter Rebbe is not kipshuta. It's not even atzmus, and it's not kipshuta in the. So when he was addressing it, the main thing was like the avodah part. It's up to us. Tzimtzum is shalei kipshuta, but Torah gives us beside our prayer to make it kipshuta. When we evict God from my life, it's tzimtzum kipshuta. Anyway, in the course of all of this, he said the following. It's a beautiful thing. He said the Herschel from Chernigov, I think from Chernigov. So the Rebbe paused and smiled and said he was a big Gaon, Lamden, the Rov in Chernigov. I think Chernigov. I mean, that's how it was. He would come to Lubavitch, so a kid who didn't never learn Chassidus would say, Hirschel is there. Hirschel is on Yukum. No rep, no nothing. Hirschel, that's how it was. So he used to say he was a big maskil and a big Gaon Oilam. When he would teach Chassidus and he would explain the deep Inyan, and he would conclude and say to the listeners, to himself, I guess also, we understand yes or understand not. This is the Indian. What I'm saying is we need to know what we don't understand. Be very clear. Relatively speaking, this I understand and this I don't get. But at least be honest and not one blur, oisius, craving. Okay, fine. Let's go further. The list of what we don't understand is a bigger list than what we do understand. That book is bigger, a lot bigger. So what do we say now? We said, now this is clear in the Ois now, that a Yid is Makayim a mitzvah, is Mamshich Atzmos, only a Yid, and therefore he affects the fusion. What's left to be understood is the tefillin before the Yid puts it on. Is that a chibur of, sounds like not. That's not so clear. He said that Kaddish is Chochma Datzilus. It's in the Keli, but not Mechuber with the Keli. There's something there, yeah. Something like that, yeah. The words he used, again, it's not Murger Self can be in every word, but he said, even though that Parshas Kaddish, the letters on the parchment, who keli lashros era chacham datzilis. It doesn't say that it is. It's a keli for it. It doesn't say that it is. But then he adds, shal derech inam shachas eres bekelim. That sounds like it's actually drawn into it. Still, it's no mitzvah because Atmos is missing. But then he says later, it's something you may be suggesting. There's Ashura, there's Chibur, there's Kishur. There may be these differences. Perhaps yes, perhaps not. But that may be part of the solution. I'm not clear. But one thing is clear is this comes out at the end of the Ois for sure that the Chibur and the Kishur is dafka through the Yid doing. What's not so clear is before he does it, what exactly is the tefillin? It's a keli lashra. Okay, maybe that's the point. But these are just oisius also. What do these words mean? Keli tashra, chibur, kishur. What exactly does it mean? You need masholim for it in the nefesh. That's when we will begin to understand it. We have a moshel for it, then which I don't have to think about it. Maybe we'll have some understanding. Pardon? Yeah, but what does that mean? What does that mean? It's a word. We have to understand what that means. Yeah, potential is definitely part of the equation here. But it needs the Yid. So let's conclude. Second last line from the page. Kedusha again is atzmos. They ma'isa mitzvahs magim yisrael b'kedushas atzmos through the act of the mitzvah. So the Yid connect to the kedushas atzmos, Baal Hashem, right? The master of the name. You remember what are the other two levels? Just someone want to tell me. Baal Hashem atzmos is baruch. And what are the two levels you identified before? Etzem Hashem and the revealed Shem. Remember what levels are what? Etzem Hashem is Ak, and the revealed Shemos, Chesed, Gevura, Tiferes, Elikim, Kel, is Atzilus. Okay, so very days so we draw on the Baal Hashem Adid Nase Kololos saying the Yichud Kuchu B'Richosh Shchinte. So this affects, he says Kololos saying because in all of these levels that the Yid affects the fusion of Kuchu B'Richosh Shchinte, which is Zon, Malchus, Oyer, and Keli, on all of its levels. Hainu Shagam, B'Chinas HaMalchus. You're taking us to the top. Shagam, B'chinas HaMalchus, the Ein Sof Shchinte, the level of Malchus of Ein Sof. That's the highest level of Shchina. Hanikra Maitzel, that's the Maitzel for the Netzolim, Sheshesh Kol Netzolim. Hubchin Hashem Bispashtas Bilvad, and that's only Hashem compared to the Kutsha B'richu that is higher than it. Yumshach B'chinas Hatzmusi is Baruch Hanikra Baal Hashem. So in Malchus the Ein Sof, that's the first level of fusion. We are being Mamshich the Baal Hashem. Where's the Etzem Hashem? He went straight here from the Baal Hashem to the, he just identified. Then there's the Etzem Hashem obviously is Zod the Ein Sof. Zod the Ein Sof would be the Etzem Hashem. Malchus the Ein Sof is Yispashtus Hashem. And through the mitzvah we mamshich the Baal Hashem. That's the first pardon. Before he said Taka that the Maitzel is, but that's Etzem Hashem relative to Atzilus. And it seems here, he's calling it Shechina. That's Malchus. So Malchus is already Spashtas Hashem, right? It's already the Gabi Zod the Ein Sof. That's more the Etzem. Okay, als relative. L'chore, it would appear. So v'zel yimakachi shmecha shamshichim b'chinas atzmos yizbarach b'chinas Hashem, that we're drawing atzmos into the level of Shem. So he's calling Malchus Dein Sof Shem already, which means there's a level of Etzem Hashem above it, right? Even though it's Shorish and Etzolim, it's the Gabi Atzilus, it's all relative. Yeah, somewhat. Jury's open here. L'chura, you have to say that. He's calling Malchus the Ein Sof Shem, right? So what's Etzem Hashem? It's calling it Shechina. Shechina is mamash already indwelling. Shechina is already the, Pnimius, Eres and Kalim. So Lagabi Netzolim, it's the Maitzel.
It almost seems like it's just the next relative level. In the Tzilus, you have Shem and Etzem Hashem, and that's relatively Shechina. Now, once you go level up, then Etzem Hashem and Baal Hashem are
relatively what?
Shechina and it's the same template, just one.
Yeah. But he just doesn't identify that Etzem Hashem. He doesn't mention it. He doesn't say that the Kutsha B'richu is Zod Ein Sof. He goes straight to Atzmos. That Atzmos is drawn into Shem, but there's that fusion there implied of the Oiris and Kalim there, of Zod the Ein Sof and the Malchus the Ein Sof. Then now going low, Misham Mishach Prinas Akav V'chut. Then from the level of Shem, which is Malchus the Ein Sof, then there is drawn a much more hardcore, graded level of Elikus called the thread, the line, the thread, and the kisha v'chibaris v'kelim till oiris v'kelim mamish. That's atzilus, and even lower, where we speak of oiris and kelim in a much more defined sense. And the operative word is it's all relative. Again, to appreciate that the whole system of ishtalshalus to the highest levels, it's just a binary system. At the core of it, it's a binary system. Gvul and bli gvul, revelation, non-revelation, yes, no. And it's all the manifestations and all of these sublime and subtle levels, as we go down lower, more and more defined. So concluding, so what do you say in Tfilas davening that Eden rejoice? Now he's going to get into the simcha part. That's the next ice. That Eden will rejoice in you, and they are, what are they? They draw down you, Atzmos, in your name, in Malchos, all Kalim, on all of the levels. So the diak is B'chod Daiker, they rejoice in you, as opposed to, in the brackets, not the usual Lashon, rejoice in Hashem. What's a yid drawing on through the mitzvah? Atmos and Mahush, Inyan Kedushas Atmos. Now the question is going to be, or rather, it's going to explain the Nois Dalet. So do the mitzvah when you need the simcha for. Why simcha again? We're going to see it's a Moedidika. And despite, I'm going to tell you, friends, despite this, how scholarly this Maimed is, there is really avoidic. In the few lines over here, in Nois Dalet, it's a whole different way to go to our office, a whole different way. So this is the plan, to learn 45 minutes before davening tomorrow and 40 minutes before davening on Simchas Torah. Namely, tomorrow davening is 10 o'clock, so we can learn 9:15. Simchas Torah davening is 10:30, we can learn 9:45. If you're game, it'll be wonderful, and we'll finish the Maimer, and even maybe a chance to chazer a bit together. Are we up for it? Aaron? Okay, maybe I got a gentleman. I've got a shlichus for you.